Hi, this is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. What I'm going to do today for you guys is the top 5 ways to save water in your container garden. Now, I always encourage you guys to like grow in raised beds, and that's what I do in the majority of my place here to grow food. Because, the larger volume of soil, the more forgiving the soil is, the more it's connected with the earth, the better it's going to be in my opinion. Of course, growing in containers is an option for some, so you don't have a space where you're going to have raised beds or grow in, connected to the earth, to the ground. Then you're going to grow in containers. And likewise, I still grow in some containers in my greenhouses, and I have some on the patio, over the walkway where I really couldn't, grow anything. And so containers are always going to be in our lives. There's a big movement in container gardening for people that live in apartments or condos or whatever, even if you just have potted plants around. This is the video you're going to want to watch to share my 5 top tips to save water. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into that. So first I want to talk about why is water conservation so important in this day and age. Well, groundwater or clean drinking water, not salt water, is getting more scarce and scarce. It's like they're pumping oil out of the ground at alarming rates, and we're at peak oil, if you know what that is. We're at also peak water, in my opinion. They're pumping water out of the ground so fast, we're using it so fast in agriculture and putting in bottles and shipping it around, that we're losing water that has taken thousands of years to accumulate in the earth in its pure and unrefined state. And so, places like California, places like Texas, southern states and the desert states, they've been in a drought and they've been on water conservation. So that's why I'm making this video for you guys, because I want you guys to really pay attention to the water you use and try to use only as much as you need and don't overuse it. And one of the things I've been noticing is that I've been wasting some water, and I don't want to say I feel guilty about it, but I do feel guilty. Plus, the water that I buy is not like rain catchment water, which I do catch some rainwater, but the majority of what I use is filtered, city water here. And so I'm paying for that, and when it's washing down, not into my plants, when it's washing down, out of my pots, onto the ground to just evaporate, it's not doing anybody any good except maybe, increasing the moisture level here in the desert. So yeah, that's why I'm making this video for you guys. So yeah, let's get right into it, I guess, without further ado. So the first way to save water if you're growing in containers is get smart. Well, some containers are smarter than others, but get smart containers, or containers that hold their own water. So here I have some fine examples right here. I think it's the Aqueous and Oasis, or vice versa. I'll put a link down below to the video. These are commercial grade planters, and actually the whole bottom, like the soil only goes down to this half, and the bottom half is all water. So lately it's been raining a lot, and actually these guys have been filling up too much. So actually I've been having to drain out the water with a hose, and then I'll water my other plants with it, because actually the water level, is getting too high. There are outlet holes that let some of the excess water drain out if it does get too high, but I think that was plugged, so I had to start draining some water out of it. So that's really smart. Now these are industrial, size units, and they cost a pretty penny. I think over $150 each. So you might not want to get those, but what I will show you are some less expensive ones that store their own water. So one of the best ones is actually right here. And this is actually called the Aquacamel. There's no label on it, but this is basically what this is in a smaller homeowner format. And so yeah, on the bottom it says Aquacamel, if you guys could read that. And basically, what this is just a pot, and it's a pot within a pot. So there's an outer pot here, and then there's an inner pot, and then it's hollow in the middle, because in this middle part is basically in a space for filling up the liquid, the water. And you take out this little plug here, which, wow, it has a spider. I don't know how it got in there. But you fill up the water here, and it fills up this reservoir between the two walls, which just fills with water. So now this could, keep for several, several weeks without watering. And there's a small hole in the bottom that basically the water will percolate through as the soil and the plant roots pull it up. So that's really cool. Now, this is a hands-off system that stores the most water, so this way you're never going to overwater, because you're only going to fill this up. The plant's going to take up as much water as it needs. So the Aquacamel, #1 tip to save water. Now, if you thought this was good, This might water your plants too much because all it is a hole in the bottom of the pot there, and the container will just seep up the water at a specified rate, you know. Not super intelligent. Now they do have, you know, water saving, you know, by the brand Parrot that I saw, that actually has a computer control to water as the moisture level is needed. But another better technology, in my opinion, is something non-computer controlled, and it's this guy. This is the Nimbus intelligent watering pot, and this waters up to 4 months or more watering per fill. So much like the Aquacamel, let me go ahead and take this out of the packaging here because I hadn't even opened this up yet, just showing it for the first time in a video. This is another pot, and this has some systems in here to get watered, but basically much like the Aquacamel, this whole outside and the inside, there's like a fake wall, and you fill that with water. But this one is even more intelligent than the Aquacamel, because inside here, if we look, there's not just a dumb hole in the bottom. This actually, there's a tubing that goes in here. And what happens is this setup actually has a spring and a ball that basically senses when the soil is dry. And when the soil is dry, then it waters. So, you know, a problem I have with the self-watering pots is that it always keeps the moisture level at a certain level. It's always kind of a little bit moist and wet. Some plants are great with, you know, moisture and wetness all the time, and some plants are not. So one of the tests I want to do maybe next summer is take both these pots and plant basil in both these at the same time, and see how long the water lasts, and then also see which plant performs better. Now, it's my opinion that the Nimbus pot, you know, with its intelligent system, without any computers, because it senses when the soil is dry and then it waters, basically using like I don't know, a simple physics, it has a true wet and dry cycle. So it goes, you know, oh, the plant's wet, oh, there's not enough water, let's water it again. So it's like rain, it doesn't always rain, you know, so your soil's not always wet, it always goes through wet and dry cycle. So this more emulates nature, whereas, you know, one of these pots here will just give you water constantly. And because these enclose the water and keep it in a sealed vessel, you know, that's going to conserve the water, because in a place where it's really arid, like where I live, you know, you get a lot of water evaporation and things dry out very quickly, you know, especially soil in pots. So yeah, these are the two best self-watering containers I found. So the last kind of self-watering container I want to show you guys right now is the self-watering plant spa, and there's many different pots like this. I got this on clearance at Target for $1.18 because I want to have it for a video like this. But this guy actually is basically just a pot with a saucer on the bottom, and they call this saucer a watering reservoir, but it's a little bit more than that, because on the bottom here there's a little space where the roots go down to hit the water, but also there's a space to get aeration, because, you know, most plants would not just like sitting with their roots wet all the time. They'll get root rot and it could be pretty bad. So this is really good, and this holds just a very little bit of water, and because this is open to the air, especially in arid climate, this will dry out relatively quickly. So while this is better than a pot with, say, holes, it's not as good as one of the other two that I've showed you. So that's tip number one, or way number one to save water: get a self-watering pot. So the second way to save water is to basically capture the water that you're already watering your pots with. So what we have here is a standard like 10-inch pot with holes in the bottom. So as you water this, the water will flow through onto the ground and then flow out wherever it goes on the ground. And when it goes on the ground, it's being wasted. So one of the ways you could slow down the water movement of going through your pot is with something like this. This is actually known as a Drought Grid. So this 10-inch pottery grid, what it does, it actually slows down the water in your pot. So how this works, let me go ahead and take this out. Basically, it's just like a little rain gutter for your pot. So what you're going to do is you're going to take one of these Drought Grids, you're going to fill up your soil, I don't know, halfway up or so, and then you're going to go ahead and put a Drought Grid right where you think the root zone is going to be, and then you're going to fill up the rest of the soil in there, and you're going to plant your plant, right? And what's going to happen is that as you water, the water is going to come through the soil, and it's going to hit this Drought Grid, and this Drought Grid is like a little reservoir. So it doesn't keep a whole lot of moisture in there, but it does keep some of the moisture as it falls through the pot. So this moisture will slowly, you know, evaporate or whatever, transpire into the soil, and your plants will reach down to here and, you know, suck the moisture out of the drought grid. So, you know, they say you could save up to 50% water using a drought grid. I haven't tested this first, but it seems, but it seems like a good, you know, system to use if you want to save water. This probably wouldn't be my first choice, but it is an option out there, and maybe you guys could fashion something that's going to work like this. Now, you know, it's definitely important. You don't want to, once again, have your root of the plant sitting in water, but I could see this will have catch just enough water to keep your roots happy for a little bit longer, so you could, you know, increase the time between waterings. So actually, you know, that'd be pretty good. So yeah, number 2, drought grid. Okay, so the third way I want to encourage you guys to save water when watering your potted or container plants is with something known as an Oya. So we have a small Oya here. This is called the Growoya. They come in all different shapes and sizes. And let me go ahead and open this up for you guys and show you guys what it is. Basically, it's just a little ceramic vase to put flowers in to give to your honey. Actually, that would not be a good idea because this is non-glazed, and when you have a ceramic that's non-glazed, it actually will leach water out of it. So the goal of the Oya is that you could, you know, go ahead and take a pot and put it in the oil. You're going to bury it about this much and fill the soil up to here, and then you'll basically plant your plants, you know, next to it here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fill the Oya up with water, and the water will basically seep through the Oya a small amount at a time, right? And then basically the water that goes through the oil will, you know, water your plants at a slow and constant rate instead of you dumping a lot of water on and then it flowing out the bottom. So I really like this technique. Probably one of the negatives of the Oyas is that they can get expensive. This one was like, I think like $17.99 at Costco. And, you know, it's hard to find ones that are quite small for smaller potted plants. This is a 10-inch pot, and this would probably work a little bit good in here. We could center this up. That might be better for this guy. Another thing I was going to do, and maybe I'll make a video of this soon, is I was actually in a local Mexican market, and they have some unglazed pottery. You know, it's very important, unglazed, that looks like it'd make a perfect Oya, and they were actually like $1.50 to $3. So stay tuned for an upcoming episode when I do that. But yeah, any unglazed pottery, you know, will work. So when you're out shopping for stuff, look for unglazed pottery made out of ceramic, because water will leach through there, and you could use that to water your plants. Now, one of the things I don't like about the Growoya is that actually they don't have a cover, because we'll get water loss through the top if there's not a cover on that. So I'm going to fashion some kind of cover, maybe like an old jar cover or lid or something I'll put over the top to prevent some of the evaporation. So yeah, use the Oyas to conserve water. So now you don't even have to hand water. You just fill these guys up and it releases water out, and I bet you'll never see a smidgen of water come out the bottom of your pot again. So the fourth way to save water on your potted plants, let me go ahead and move over here and show you guys. So I don't know if you guys could see down over there, I got these, you know, the self-watering containers here. I got a stack of bricks, and then I got a wooden container there, and then I got a like, I don't know, some kind of fiberglass something container that I got for free because they were throwing it out next to my brother's house, and I picked it up. But it's a nice large container. I really don't like the material. But as you guys can see on the ground, there's water flowing out, and you know, when I do that, I'm wasting water, and that's not good. So let me show you guys a quick and easy and the simplest and least expensive way to save water in your garden when you have a standard pot like that. So to do that, we're gonna have to open up this big box and let's see what's inside. So I want to let you guys know that this box, actually I ordered online from monstergardens.com. It comes in a nice brown box. You will not know what the contents are until you open it up. So that's really cool. Now, I've used Monster Gardens in the past, many different, you know, gardening products that I have used in my garden when I need something. And, you know, they're a very good company. They have good prices. They ship fast, and I would highly recommend them. So in here, what we're going to find is a lot of basically paper, brown craft paper. This could save you some water. No, just kidding. All right. But this will actually get shredded up and thrown in my compost. But this is packed quite well, so no damage will occur. And if we go inside here, what we're going to find are tons of saucers, flying saucers, frisbees. All right, no. But seriously, I've ordered a lot of saucers from Monster Gardens. because they had the special size I need. And these are actually made in the USA, so I always encourage you guys to buy USA made whenever possible, made in Portland, Oregon. This is the Anderson Dye and Manufacturing Company 14-inch, number 14 saucer. This is going to fit my nice large potted plants. And you know, some of the other things that I have pots for are quite large. So, you know, you could find most commonly the small, like 1 gallon size saucers, even at dollar stores and whatnot. But when you have some nice large potted plants, that can be very challenging to find the proper dimensions of the saucers. And that's why I looked up Monster Gardens and chose to go with them, because they have all different sizes. They have the small to the larger sizes. And you know, the larger ones, like those big pots there, were really hard to find. So, you know, I was able to find these nice large black saucers. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this saucer underneath my container. So now when I water, all the water gets collected in this saucer and does not run away. So that's really cool. So what'll happen is the plant's roots will probably grow through the holes in the bottom and then you know, hit the saucer and then be able to drink the water up. Now it's very important when watering your plants is to, you know, make sure the saucer is not full of water all the time. You want it to go through a natural wet and dry cycle. But this is a way to save some of the water so that you do not overwater and it goes onto the concrete like you're seeing there. So here's the super jumbo size saucer that I got from Monster Gardens. I mean, these are hard to find. This is the best price I could find. And because you're one of my viewers, you get a special discount at Monster Gardens. So check that link down below. It's monstergardens.com/GYG. I hooked you guys up with a special discount because I like Monster Gardens so much and say, hey, if I mention you guys, will you guys give my people a discount? And they said yes. So yeah, by all means, they got good products, good shipping and all that stuff, and tons of sizes. So what I want to do next, actually, I'm going to go ahead and put some of these saucers on and then show you guys what it looks like, and then I'll get into my final tip on how you can save water when watering your container plants. Alright, so as you guys can see, it took some sheer muscles to lift these guys up because I actually just had watered these guys and I lifted them up and put them in the saucers. But the saucers fit great and I'm confident that this will now save me some water, you know, when watering these plants. Now, I do encourage you guys to, you know, lift up your pots when they're dry, because when they're wet, it's especially heavy. And I don't want you guys hurting your back, so be, you know, safer rather than sorry, or just get a friend, neighbor, or loved one to help you lift these guys up to put the saucers underneath. So as you guys can see, I'm now inside my greenhouse, and one of the challenges I have is when I'm in the greenhouse or when my assistant is actually watering my plants, we'll water the plants and all the water will leak out the bottom, and then I'll just have a pool of water on the concrete. And instead of watering the concrete, I want to retain that moisture in the plants, you know, so that the plants could benefit from the water instead of having it run down and hit the ground. Also, this will prevent overwatering. So if you know you water and it goes through and the container on the bottom fills up and overflows, you've overwatered, man. You just want to give enough water to wet the soil to barely fill up the saucer in the bottom so that there's some water that could hang out for next time. And then you want to let it fully dry out and then water it next time. Don't just, like, if there's water in the saucer, that's your indication not to water. So this will also save you water, because, you know, some people don't pick up the pots to feel, oh, it's light, it's heavy. Oh, if it's heavy, then it's full of water. I don't need to water it, right? I want you guys to be more acutely aware of your plant's water's needs, and by putting saucers and by seeing water in the saucer, you know, hey, there's water in there, I'm probably pretty good. You know, this is provided you have established plants, that the roots are going down into the bottom, and or you have some soil that's actually going to help wick up the water. But anyways, I got another box here from Monster Gardens, and we're going to check out what we got here. So, you know, saucers come in all different kinds of shapes and sizes, and Monster Gardens, I'm confident, has a size for your pot. Whether you got a fabric pot, and I definitely recommend on fabric pots you guys use saucers for sure, but even on these guys, they got the inexpensive plastic ones that I'm not a super fan of. These are, you know, cheaper to use and can definitely get you something. But, you know, I'd much rather use something like, you know, these guys. These are for like my small 4-inchers. These are the number 6 saucer, you know, once again, Anderson Dye Manufacturing, Portland, Oregon. So definitely really cool. I mean, all I'm going to do now is just take these saucers and put them under each plant, and we'll line these all up with saucers, so then I'll be watering my plants instead of my concrete. So yeah, Monster Gardens comes through again for me. So I got a lot of work to put saucers underneath all these plants. So as you guys can see, I got saucers under all my plants here, so that's really cool. Now we're just gonna go ahead and take my watering wand and I have this turned down really low, and we're just gonna go ahead and carefully water each one, and I'm not gonna see any water leaking out the bottom. So I definitely like that a lot. Now, you know, I want you guys to think out of the box. Besides just buying saucers, as Monster Gardens has many different sizes, in your local, you know, landscape supply store and garden center has many different size saucers, and they even come at Monster Gardens in square ones. All different sizes that are really cool for square potted plants if you got to, but remember, square pot could always fit in a round hole, wait, or a round saucer, so you don't necessarily need the square ones. The square ones are actually from Italy, so that's cool. I'd rather get made in the US. You could use many other things for saucers as well. So, for example, over on this side, we got my small little 4-inch pots here in just a standard, you know, this is a greenhouse dome tray, and I've been growing these guys in here for a while, and they've been growing quite well. So, you know, you could use like old, like, you know, go to the thrift store and get like little like saucers for cups. They're not going to hold as much water as these guys, or plates, or bowls, or something like that. Or like old like baking pans, that'd be good, except they'd probably like rust, and don't get the ones that have like the Teflon coating. That's probably not too good for your plants. But yeah, there's many different options. Now, what I want to show you guys next is actually the final way to save water in your potted plants, and I'm actually going to go head over to my other greenhouse to show you that. So the fifth and final way that you can save water is not by any hardware method. So the hardware is kind of like the pots, the self-watering pots, the, you know, the saucers that catch the water, but it's by what I call the software, or the heart of what is in the container that you're growing in. It's the soil mixture, or the potting soil mixture. So here I'm mixing up my own soil here to have really good soil to put in my pots, and the blend that I make for my pots is a little bit different than the blend that I make for my garden at large, and that's why they sell potting soil. You know, it's meant for pots. So if you don't know what you're doing, you know, and making your own stuff like I am, you know, you want to buy a good potting soil, and you want to look for something that's going to retain water inside the potting soil as it is. So something like the coconut coir, which I have in my mixture, is really good. It's going to hold on to some water, or something like some peat moss. It's going to hold up some moisture in there and keep it in there. I mean, you could think of the easiest example if you have, you know, just simply a pot with a bunch of sand, and you put the water through there. The water just goes through the sand, immediately drains out. The water is not being held in any large manner inside the pot. And if you had clay, you water the clay, and the clay would actually hold on some water, and, you know, the coconut coir and the peat moss will actually grab onto some water like a sponge and release it at a later time. So this will basically increase this duration between waterings. Now, of course, in an arid climate like I live, even with the coconut coir, you know, and in the middle of the summer, things dry out really fast, and I got to water minimum once a day, sometimes even twice a day on some pots in full sun. So yeah, what goes in the pot is very important, and you want to make sure you have a nice balance of the coconut coir or the peat moss to the soil mixture. So the easiest way is just buy a good potting soil. Monster Gardens has several that actually I use myself, core-based potting soils. Now, the last way also has to do with the soil, you know, and it's this, actually. You want to get something like this guy. It's called the mycorrhizae, and it's the granular mycorrhiza, right? The more biology that we could get into the soil, such as the beneficial fungi or mycorrhizal fungi and bacteria, right, they will also help, you know, make your plants more resistant to drought, and they'll be able to live on less water. So, you know, the mycorrhiza and the bacteria, definitely imperative. You could buy, you know, the mycorrhiza like this and sprinkle a little bit, you know, on the root zone if you're transplanting into containers, or put a little bit around the seed, you know, when you plant the seeds in the containers, and that's going to help out conserve some water, allow your plants to conserve some water, and allow your plants to grow much healthier, because we're growing in a more biologic, organic, natural method like I like. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, learning the 5 top ways to conserve water in your containers. If you guys enjoyed this episode, hey, please give me a thumbs up. If you guys got some tips for conserving water in containers I didn't cover, hey, please post them down below along with your comments. I do read through those when I can. And Also, be sure to check my past episodes. I have over 1,100 episodes now, teaching you guys all aspects of gardening. And also be sure to click that subscribe button down below so you're updated and notified of my new and upcoming episodes. I think I'm pretty hungry after basically saucering all my plants. I think I'll maybe go frisbee with some of the extra saucers I have. And actually, I'm going to go eat some lunch now. All right, so once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep on growing. All right, this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. Today, another exciting episode for you. And this is going to be a quick style episode because I know a lot of you guys like things quick, even in the bedroom. So anyways, got a quick video here for you. So we're going to really quickly get into the top 6